Okay, I am live now, and I'm going to see if there's an echo. Check, check, check. Check, check, check. Okay, I'm not hearing an echo. Let's see if I can invite all y'all. And okay, so we'll just wait to see if my guests show up. And all right. Okay, I have one. Sign in, please. If you could just let me know who's watching in the chat. Just let me know. And I sent a message to Yohanan and Kifa, and I'm waiting for them to sign in. So. And we'll just keep going with this. We'll try and do this. All right. I'm getting Kifa on the phone here.
Hello?
Hi. Okay, I went back on StreamYard and opened another one. So it should be, I sent you on Facebook Messenger an invite. So far, I'm not hearing any echoing.
Okay. Let's hang up. I got to look for that link.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. So we're waiting. We're waiting on. Whoop. All right. So we're waiting on Kifa to sign in. Let me see guests. All right. Okay. All right. So what we're going to be reading from, this is Parshat Acharei Mot. And Acharei Mot means, it's Hebrew for after the death, and it concerns Aaron's sons who died when they offered unauthorized sacrifice. And so it's going to deal with that. And we've got one person watching. Okay. And you can hear me. Any echoes? Okay. I sent, okay, let me copy that. And I'm going to send you, I'm sending you, that's where to sign in. So in the chat, there right under, it's got that link to sign in. Okay. It is a beautiful day in California. I'm here in my ancestral homeland, in my backyard, or not my backyard. It used to be my backyard, but it's my dad's backyard. And there's Craig. There's Kifa. Hello, Kifa. And say a few words.
Hello.
So, oh, perfect. Okay, I'm going to turn you down because you're real loud. Okay, good. You're on. Just got to, and did you use that link that I put in the chat bar there?
I'm not sure.
Where did you get the link? Was it in Messenger?
I don't know. I clicked some. I'm not sure where I got the link. I think it was a link I selected on screen with my thumb.
Oh, okay. From your phone? Your phone?
No, yeah, I'm doing all of this from my phone.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So I'm going to do a share screen. And we're back to Leviticus 16:1. Okay. So we have been at this 45 minutes trying to get online, trying to make this happen. Okay. So, and you can see that fine. So we're just waiting for Yohanan. I'm going to see if, all right. So we're waiting on Yohanan, and okay, I'm going to send him an invite to his other and okay, send that to him and see if he gets that so he can join us as well. So there is a delay, but at least there isn't that annoying echo.
Okay.
Okay. It sounds like that delay is like 10 seconds long. It's pretty long. All right. Okay. So let's see if he joins in. I'll just keep an eye out for him. So we can start out with just reading from the very beginning again and see if this works. Okay, so the beginning, Vayikra, Leviticus 16, starting at verse 1. All right. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe after the death of the two sons of Aharon, as they drew near before Yahweh and died. And Yahweh said to Moshe, speak to Aharon, your brother, not to come in at all times to the set-apart place inside the veil, before the lid of atonement which is on the ark, lest he die, because I appear in the cloud above the lid of atonement. With this, Aharon should come into the set-apart place with the blood of a young bull as a sin offering, and of a ram as a burnt offering. He should put on the set-apart linen long shirt with linen trousers on his flesh, and gird himself with a linen girdle, and be dressed with the linen turban. They are set-apart garments, and he shall bathe his body in water, and shall put them on. And from the congregation of the children of Israel he takes 2 male goats as a sin offering, and 1 ram as a burnt offering. Okay. All right, and if you would pick it up, Kifa, from 6 to go ahead and go to the end of 12.
Okay. Aaron is to present the bull for the sin offering, which is for himself, and make atonement for himself and his household. He is to take the 2 goats and place them before Adonai at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Then Aaron is to cast lots for the 2 goats, 1 lot for Adonai and the other for Azazel. Aaron is to present the goat whose lot fell to Adonai and offer it as a sin offering. But the goat whose lot fell to Azazel is to be presented alive to Adonai, to be used for making atonement over it by sending it away into the desert for Azazel. Aaron is to present the bull of the sin offering for himself, he will make atonement for himself and his household. He is to slaughter the bull of the sin offering which is for himself. He is to take a censer full of burning coals from the altar before Adonai, and with his hands full of ground fragrant incense, bring it inside the curtain. That's go beyond 13. Continuing at 13. He is to put the incense on the fire before Adonai, so that the cloud from the incense will cover the ark, cover which is over the testimony, in order that he not die. He is to take some of the bull's blood and sprinkle it with his finger on the ark cover toward the east, and in front of the ark cover he is to sprinkle some of the blood with his finger 7 times. That finishes the topic. I just finished reading verse 14.
Okay, and just one moment. Okay, for some reason we had 2 going at the same time. Oh, I can do. All right, I'm just gonna share. I'm gonna share this on. It was not transmitting to our Facebook page, so I'm putting the link there. Okay, so now it is. Okay. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. All right, so you ended at 14. And so here we see the duties of the high priests and how they are to dress, how they are to prayerfully come before the mercy seat of Yahweh, and what they are to offer. And here they're offering 2 goats, one for the goat for Yahweh, and the goat, and then another the goat for Azazel. And as I had mentioned before, Azazel is a demon. And it's also, Azazel is a name that's used to designate or signify a desolate area. Okay. And so here he's, then he brings the bull. Okay, so the bull is a sin offering. So they slaughter the bull, they take the blood of the bull, and then that's what they use to sprinkle on the mercy seat. And then, so it says, bring the bull of the sin offering, which is for himself. So even the priests have to cover their sin with the blood of a sacrificed animal. And so he makes atonement for himself and his family. It says for his house, but it means his family. And then he slaughters the bull as a sin offering. Then he takes a fire holder filled with burning coals of fire from the altar before Yahweh. And then he brings the sweet incense, which is ground very, very fine. He brings both inside the veil that separates the holy place from the most holy place, the Holy of Holies. And then he puts the incense on the fire, and the smoke goes up, which is to go up as a sweet savor before Yahweh. And we know that incense on the altar is representative of our prayers before him. And it's pleasing. It's pleasing to him. The sweet incense, it smells wonderful. It's very pleasing to anybody, but it's supposed to be pleasing to the Most High. So we know that our prayers and our worship ascends as a sweet incense to his throne room, and that is most pleasing to him as well. So he puts the incense in the fire, and it says, the cloud of incense shall cover the lid of atonement, which is on the witness. So he offers it. It says, lest he die. It's serious. Then he takes the blood of the bull, sprinkles it with a finger on the mercy seat on the east side. Also in front of the lid of atonement, he sprinkles some of the blood with his finger 7 times. And we know that the number 7 indicates perfection and completion. Okay, moving on. And I don't see Yochanan. Let me see if he's there. Nope. Okay. All right. Yochanan, if you get the message, sign on. if you can hear us, sign on. We'd love to hear your input. Okay, so from and you went until, let's see. Are we starting at 14, Craig?
We are, I have read through 14.
Okay,
15
so
is the next
15.
verse.
Okay, thank you. All right. So going on from verse 15, and he shall slaughter the goat of the sin offering, which is for the people, and shall bring its blood inside the veil, and shall do with that blood as he did with the blood of the bull, and sprinkle it on the lid of atonement, and in front of the lid of atonement. And he shall make atonement for the set apart place because of the uncleanness of the children of Israel, and because of their transgressions in all their sins. And so he does for the tent of meeting, which is dwelling with them in the midst of their uncleanness. And no man should be in the tent of meeting when he goes in to make atonement in the set apart place until he comes out. And he shall make atonement for himself and for his household and for all the assembly of Israel. And he shall go out to the altar that is before Yahweh and make atonement for it. And he shall take some of the blood of the bull and some of the blood of the goat, and put it on the horns of the altar all around. And he shall sprinkle some of the blood on it with his finger 7 times, and cleanse it, and set it apart from the uncleanness of the children of Israel. So what the priest does, the high priest does, is he comes in bearing the sin on his shoulders before Yahweh. And this is symbolized by the black stones that the black stone plates that are on his shoulders. 6 of the names, or the names of 6 of the tribes of Israel, are on one shoulder, and the other 6 are on the other shoulder. So he's literally representing the people, and literally he's got everything, all their sin, on his shoulders as he goes in to the holy place. And no one else is allowed in the tent of meeting at all, not just the Holy of Holies, and not just the holy place, but the tent of meeting at all. No one else can be in there, because this is a very serious thing. The Kohen, the high priest, is not to be interrupted. You know how it is. I'm sure, Kifa, you know how it is when we show up to service, and all of a sudden they need your ear. They need to talk to you about something or other. And, that's perfectly good. But sometimes you're in preparation to bring people into the holy place of worship, and you can't be distracted. And it's just like that with the priests. So they don't even allow people to come in until the priests, have finished what they're doing inside the Holy of Holies and have emerged. And here he makes the offering. He sprinkles the blood on the mercy seat and of the bull and the goat. And then he goes outside to where the altar, the sacrifice altar is, which has got the 4 horns, one on each corner. And he sprinkles the blood there too. And when he's in the Holy of Holies, he's not only sprinkling the blood on the lid of the mercy seat, he's sprinkling it in front, at the foot of front of the mercy seat. So in order to do this, he's sprinkling on top. But in order, I'm getting sprinkled on top by the buds falling here. But in order to sprinkle at the foot in front of that, the mercy seat, he has to bow. He assumes a position of humility. And, if a high priest does this, we should be assuming that position of humility whenever we bring our offerings in front of Yahweh, when we offer him our praise, our worship, our prayers, we approach with reverence. And in fact, we've got a sign right outside the doorway going in to the sanctuary, that we are to enter with holy expectation. Okay, so anything you have to say, Kifa, concerning this? Any?
No, I just wanted to add, just because I have a light above my head does not mean I have an idea.
Okay. Okay.
I guess it's my turn to continue.
Yes. Okay, so we're starting at 20.
On
And yes.
my screen, I see the screen has spacing for Yochanan. I just can't.
Oh,
It's
okay.
as if he hasn't clicked enter studio.
Okay. All
So
right.
you may need to resend him a link.
Okay. So
But I'm starting at 20 and going to where?
hang on. I'm sending. And okay. Okay, I'm writing. Are you able to join us? And click on enter studio. Whoops, spell it right. Studio. Okay, I'm sending that to him. Hopefully he'll get that. And good. Okay, so we're back. All right. Hopefully you'll get that. Okay, so we're starting at 20. And if you can go to the end of 25.
Okay. When he has finished atoning for the holy place, the tent of meeting, and the altar, he is to present the live goat. Aaron is to lay both hands on the head of the live goat and confess over it all the transgressions, crimes, and sins of the people of Israel. He is to put them on the head of the goat and then send it away into the desert with a man appointed for the purpose. The goat will bear all their transgressions away to some isolated place, and he is to let the goat go into the desert. Aaron is to go back into the tent of meeting, where he is to remove the linen garments he put on when he entered the holy place, and he is to leave them there. Then he is to bathe his body in water in the holy place, put on his other clothes, come out and offer his burnt offering and the burnt offering of the people, thus making atonement for himself and for the people. He is to make the fat of the sin offering go up in smoke on the altar.
Okay, so here he's got the goat for the Lord, goat for Adonai, the goat for Azazel. And this reminds us of when Yeshua was presented by Pilate, and he says, Eche, oh, Eche homo. which is Latin for "here is the man." And because of the Passover, he offers the people that are gathered there. He says it's your tradition, or it's the tradition we've established, that on this holiday, on this feast, during this feast, um, one man is to be let go. And so he left it up to the people. He said, do you want Yeshua or do you want Barabbas? And they choose Barabbas rather than Yeshua. So they let Barabbas go. And so Yeshua was literally the goat for the Lord, the goat for Yahweh. So his blood, he was sacrificed. His blood was offered on that the altar that we know to be the execution stake. And Barabbas was let go. He was the goat for Azazel. He was the goat for that demon and sent out to a desolate place that Azazel represents. So, here, and the idea is when they let the goat go, it seems, you would think, oh, they're letting this goat live. The goat for Azazel, they're letting him live. They're killing the goat for the Lord and letting the goat for Azazel live. But traditionally, it's assumed that goat's going to die out there in the wilderness anyway. And it used to be that there would be a person who would lead that goat out near the precipice, near a cliff in the desert there, and that the goat would fall into, over the cliff and be killed. But more often than not, they didn't wait for the goat to make that decision to jump or to, wander off of the cliff. A lot of times they would push it over the cliff, give it a little help. So, but anyway, the two goats remind us of the two Yeshuas. Many people don't know that Barabbas, that was his, designation, that he was a son of Abbas. His first name was Yeshua. So our Yeshua was Yeshua ben Yosef. And Barabbas was Yeshua bar Abbas. Now Ben and Bar are they're related. They both mean son of. And so one Yeshua was crucified and the other one was let go to his own end. Okay, so let's see, we ended at 25. So then it shows that the priest Aaron, he did all, with the sacrifices. And when you sacrifice an animal, there's going to be blood everywhere, including on your clean white garments. And so here he changes, he removes these white linen garments, and then he leaves them, and then he goes to bathe his body in water in the set apart place. So he removes these garments, he leaves them there, bathes himself, and then he puts on his clean garments, and then he comes out to prepare the burnt offering, and for himself and also for the people. And he's making atonement for himself and for the people. And it says and burn the fat of the sin offering on the altar. We're not to eat the fat. We're not to eat blood, and we're not to eat the fat. All that belongs to Yahweh. So that's, it's a Jewish thing to avoid eating blood and avoid eating the fat of any animal. Okay. Okay. Anything you want to add?
Not at this time.
Okay. All right. So going on at 26. All right. And he who sent away the goat to Azazel washes his garments. Oh, I'm sorry. Was it 24? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, 26. And he who sent away the goat to Azazel washes his garments and shall bathe his body in water, and afterward he comes into the camp. And the bull for the sin offering and the goat for the sin offering, whose blood was brought in to make atonement in the set apart place, is brought outside the camp. And they shall burn their skins and their flesh and their dung with fire. And he who burns them washes his garments and shall bathe his body in water. And afterward he comes into the camp. And this shall be for you a law forever. In the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, you afflict your beings and do no work, the native or the stranger who sojourns among you. Okay, so, and I'll just keep going. For on that day he makes atonement for you to cleanse you, to be clean from all your sins before Yahweh. It is a Sabbath of rest for you, and you shall afflict your beings, a law forever. And the priest who is anointed and ordained to serve as priest in his father's place shall make atonement and shall put on the linen garments, the set apart garments. And he shall make atonement for the most set apart place, and make atonement for the tent of meeting, and for the altar, and make atonement for the priests, and for all the people of the assembly. And this shall be for you a law forever, to make atonement for the children of Israel for all their sins once a year. And he did as Yahweh commanded Moshe. Okay, so it basically, even the one who does not slaughter an animal for sacrifice, the priest who leads the animal, the goat for Azazel, away, even he has to wash himself. Presumably it's because he's out, outside the camp. It's dusty, it's dirty. He's heading toward the cliff. And so, that would soil his garments somewhat. But even more, he has finished doing what he's supposed to do. And as a sign spiritually that he has completed his task, he comes back, he washes his garments, and he, let's see. And it's also speaking of the person, the ones who burn the skins and the flesh and the dung. This is also dirty work. But they have to cleanse themselves in the natural and also in the spiritual. And it says that he has to wash his garments and bathe his body in water, and afterward, then he comes into the camp. So he does this before coming back into the camp. He basically leaves all the spiritual uncleanness outside the camp. And it says this is a law forever. And it says, my phone is just doing a crazy thing here. Okay, so he's got to wash everything before he can enter the camp. And then it says this is a law forever. And it says this several times. It even ends with that. This is a law forever. And it speaks of the 7th month on the 10th day of the month. And of course, this is Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. So this is what is done every year on that day. And it even says there, this is every year. And it says, for on that day he makes atonement for you to cleanse you, to be clean from all your sins before Yahweh. And he calls it a Sabbath. It's a Shabbat. It's a day of rest. And it says, you shall afflict your beings, a law forever. And we understand that afflicting ourselves, afflicting our beings, it's a fast day. That's a way of afflicting ourselves without drawing blood. It's a fast day. And then it says this is the law forever. So I know there are some who say, well, Yeshua paid the final sacrifice, And he was the final sacrifice. And so we no longer bring an offering, an animal to die in for our sin. And um and they understand that, well, since we're not bringing a sacrifice, then we don't have to afflict ourselves. But another way of thinking of it, every year on Yom Kippur, we know that Yeshua was the final sacrifice, but we are to remember it. It's a yizkor. Yizkor is a remembrance. It means remembrance. And so we remember on every Yom Kippur that this is what was done for our sins every year. But because the blood of bulls and goats does not wash us clean forever, we depend on the sacrifice of Yeshua. And when he said it's finished, it's finished. But we do this in remembrance of him. And he asks us to remember him, to not forget what he's done for us. So not only are we to remember him in taking Messiah's table, communion, every time we do it, which is, which he said, do this in remembrance of me. He said that at Pesach, at the Seder. We are also to remember that his sacrifice canceled the animal sacrifices. In fact, no more temple. He said, that soon this beautiful temple, soon not one stone will be left upon another. It will be destroyed. Without the temple, without the holy place, without the priesthood and the altars of sacrifice, we can't make animal sacrifices anymore. We don't have to. He made the final sacrifice. And even though we understand that and we receive that as the cleansing of ourselves, of our sin, there's a yizkor. Just like communion is a yizkor of what he did for us as the Passover lamb. Yom Kippur, when we afflict ourselves, when we fast, it's to remember what he did. To remember that everything's, the sacrifices are canceled, but the remembrance of the sacrifice is not canceled, because it says here, this is a law forever. When we afflict ourselves, we don't do it as something, for salvation. We don't. He bought our salvation. But we remember whenever we are called to fast, whether it's on Yom Kippur or any other time the Lord calls us to do that. Fasting helps put our focus on him. It helps us to gain clarity of mind and spirit. I know that sounds that sounds so new age. It's not. Anyone who has been called to fast, especially for an extended time, you're in the desert spiritually, and you're depending on him, and you're hearing him. There's no distractions. You focus on him. So this, the fact that he said a law forever, it's a law forever. Okay, so and it speaks of the priest who was anointed and ordained to serve as priest in his father's place, shall make atonement and shall put on the linen garments and set apart garments. So a priest who is the son of a priest, he's supposed to do this for his father. He also makes atonement for the set apart place, for the holy place. He makes atonement for the tent of meeting, that whole tent, and for the altar outside of the tent. He makes atonement for all the priests and also the people of the assembly. So his job is to make atonement for everything and everyone. This is what Messiah Yeshua did. his final sacrifice, he made atonement for everything and everyone, and it's just our job to receive it. And again, it says, "This shall be a law forever, to make atonement for the children of Israel for all their sins once a year." Okay, so this was until the final sacrifice. And he did as Yah commanded Moshe. So I know that's a lot. But you know, there's a lot of Messiah Yeshua in the Tanakh. And I know some people will deny that. And, a lot of people who listen to the rabbis over what Yah really says in scripture and over whatever voice is telling them. We have to look at scripture, and you can see if the Ruach is really moving on you, you can see Messiah all over the Tanakh. Okay, anything to add, Kifa?
No, I can't think of anything.
You can't think of anything. Okay. All right. I know I went on and on and on. Oh, goodness. Okay. Wow. We had a late start, but we're going to try and go through this. Okay. And all right. So Leviticus 17. You can, if you could start at 1, and let's see, go to the end of 9.
End of 9. Okay. Yeah. Adonai said to Moshe, "Speak to Aaron and his sons and to all the people of Israel. Tell them that this is what Adonai has ordered. When someone from the community of Israel slaughters an ox, lamb, or goat inside or outside the camp, without bringing it to the entrance of the tent of meeting to present it as an offering to Adonai before the tabernacle of Adonai, he is to be charged with blood. He has shed blood, and that person is to be cut off from his people. The reason for this is so that the people of Israel will bring their sacrifices that they sacrifice out in the field, so that they will bring them to Adonai, to the entrance of the tent of meeting, to the Cohen, and sacrifice them as peace offerings to Adonai. The Cohen will splash the blood against the altar of Adonai at the entrance to the tent of meeting, and make the fat go up in smoke as a pleasing aroma for Adonai. No longer they will offer their sacrifices to the goat demons before whom they prostitute themselves. This is a permanent regulation for them throughout all generations.
Oh, wow.
And that's through verse 7.
Yeah. That's interesting. Okay. So it speaks of whoever slaughters a bull or lamb or goat in the camp, or slaughters outside the camp, and he doesn't bring it to the door of the tent of meeting to bring an offering to Yahweh. So he receives blood guilt. He has shed blood, and that man is cut off from among his people. So it's sort of, it's unauthorized, an unauthorized sacrifice, an unauthorized offering. And I feel a sneeze coming on. Ooh, excuse me. Okay.
I don't know if you just saw the message from Yochanan,
No.
but he was still referencing attempting to get on through Facebook, which would be wrong. I don't
Okay.
think he saw your second invite to StreamYard.
Okay. Oh, I see. I see his message. He says I couldn't figure out where to go. Um, let's see, and everything shut down. Oh, he's in a lot of pain, so it's difficult sitting and concentrating. Okay. I'm gonna message him. Uh, okay. And yeah, if we could take a moment to pray for Yochanan. Yeah. Father Yahweh, we thank you for our brother and his obedience to you and his desire to walk in your ways. We thank you for his faithfulness, Lord, and we understand he's in a lot of pain right now that's making things difficult. Father, we ask that you touch him and heal him, that you remove pain from him, that you lift him up from his bed of affliction, Lord, and restore him in full health and to be pain free and walking in holiness and wholeness before you, Lord. And so, Lord, while we love having him being part of this Midrash, Lord, Father, you know his heart, and Lord, just be with him and uh, and comfort him and bring him healing. And we ask this b'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen. Okay, so all right. Okay, so um, let's see. Oh, okay. I'm. Uh, uh, let's.
I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
I think chapter 17, verses 1 through 7, it gets a bit complicated, it seems, but more you think about it, Yahweh's being consistent here.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what animal is chosen by the person, the Israelite, to be worthy of a sacrifice, it has to be verified as worthy by a Cohen.
Yes.
Okay. So that means you have to get that animal to a Cohen. And where are they? They're at the tent of meeting and the surrounding that area before the animal can be killed. So if you don't do that, get that animal verified that it's blemish free and worthy to be sacrificed, then basically you're wasting your animal.
Right.
There. What are you supposed to do? Bring your dead animal to the Cohen then afterwards,
Oh.
and say, "See," and the Cohen says, "It's dead. It's not worthy."
Right. 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 Exactly. And it's supposed to be offered by a priest.
Yeah.
Because they've gone through all the hoops to make sure that they are in the proper, they are properly prepared to offer the sacrifice, and that they're not, offering anything that isn't authorized. Um, and they have no way of authenticating that the dead animal that was brought to them, was sacrificed in the correct way. Or, I mean, the person could have picked up an animal on the road, and yeah, seriously. I
Right.
mean, people will do that. People will,
They just sleep along the road.
yeah, yeah, the dirt nap. But people will take shortcuts, they will take shortcuts, and they'll try to, it's like people who go to their jobs, they're working, they will punch the time clock and do the minimum while they're at work, or they'll hide in the mail room or in the warehouse, where people can't see that they're napping or that they're not doing their job. People will, look for the loophole. They'll try to shortchange the boss, and the same goes with people who are, thinking that they can shortchange Yahweh, and they can't. Neither of us. He sees us. He sees what we do, and he knows what we think. He knows what's in our hearts. So we cannot fool him. You know. So okay, okay. I'll start at 8, and let's see. Okay, and and say to them, any man of the house of Israel or of the strangers who sojourn among you, who offers a burnt offering or slaughtering, and does not bring it to the door of the tent of meeting to do it do it to Yahweh, that man shall be cut off from among his people. And any man of the house of Israel or of the strangers who sojourn among you, who eats any blood, I shall set my face against that being who eats blood, and shall cut him off from among his people. For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make atonement for your lives. For it is the blood that makes atonement for life. And that's something we know, that only blood atones. And I'm getting pelted by by this tree. Only blood atones. And so how much greater of an atonement is it? Much greater than an animal sacrifice is the sacrifice of the very Son of Yahweh, whom is Yahweh himself. He, and I know a lot of people don't understand that it's a lot of times it's just narrowness of mind when they don't get that concept, or they don't trust, if they don't put enough trust in what Yahweh has said to accept. But Yah from time to time presents himself in different forms to different people. The burning bush, you know, his presence was in that burning bush. Even though Moshe saw the bush that burned, but it was not consumed, Yah's presence is there. He presented himself that way, and presented himself as, the 3 strangers to Abraham. Abraham recognized that it was Yahweh, but, that was the spiritual sight that Yah gave Abraham to recognize that. And the same goes for Messiah Yeshua. Messiah Yeshua was Yahweh presenting himself in a form that we could look upon and not die, and to learn from as well. So his sacrifice, the sacrifice of Messiah Yeshua, his blood is God's blood. What greater sacrifice could there be? And here at the end here it says, it tells us that that any man of the house of Israel or the strangers, those who are not of Israel, who are among us, who eats any blood, he's going to set his face against them and cut them off from among his people. That's scary stuff. For the life of the flesh is in the blood. And he says, I have given it to you upon the altar to make atonement for your lives. So he is providing a sacrifice to himself, just as he did with Messiah Yeshua. And it says, for it is the blood that makes atonement for the life. Pretty heavy stuff. Okay. Anything?
Well, it's heavy stuff, but Yahweh considers sin heavy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's already been
Absolutely.
clear. The wages of sin is death.
Yes.
And I always think of death as not like we think of it a lot of times, but
Mm-hmm.
just the separation for all eternity
Yep.
from Yahweh.
Mm-hmm.
That is a heavy death.
Yep.
Okay, that's all I wanted to add.
Yeah. 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 It is. It is very heavy stuff. Sin is heavy. Um, a lot of people. That's interesting. You should say that because a lot of people, after they have confessed their sin and made teshuvah, they've repented of that sin. More often than not, they will say, "I feel lighter." It's because of the heaviness of that sin, that guilt is off of them now, and Yah has been faithful to remove it. Pretty pretty awesome. All right, Kifa, if you would read from 12 to the end.
Okay, from 12.
Yes, 12 to the end.
Okay. This is why I told the people of Israel, none of you is to eat blood, not nor is any foreigner living with you to eat blood. Aha.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to be Jewish
Right.
to abide by these rules.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 13.
Mm-hmm.
When someone from the community of Israel or one of the foreigners living with you hunts and catches game, whether animal or bird, that may be eaten, he is to pour out its blood and cover it with earth.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta change my eyeballs here. It's getting blurry.
Oh.
Oh, that's better. Verse 14. For the life of every creature, its blood is its life. Therefore I said to the people of Israel, you are not to eat the blood of any creature, because the life of every creature is its blood. Whoever eats it will be cut off. Um, Anyone eating an animal that dies naturally or is torn to death by wild animals, whether he is a citizen or a foreigner, is to wash his clothes and bathe himself in water. He will be unclean until evening, until he will be clean. Then he will be clean.
Mm-hmm.
But if he doesn't wash them or bathe his body, he will bear the consequences of his wrongdoing. That's
Okay. Mm-hmm. I understand. Somebody messaged. I understand. Oh, it looks like John Yochanan is. Oh, yeah. No apologies are necessary. Uh, Yochanan. Hang on. Okay. Okay. I just
well,
sent
I
him a
miss
message.
him because he's a wise contributor.
Yeah. Yeah. We miss you, Yochanan. Okay. Yeah, and we please keep him in your prayers because he's not feeling well. Okay. Yeah. So it does speak, a lot of people say, well, we don't have to do Torah anymore because, Yeshua got rid of that. Well, he didn't. He didn't. And if people would just read their Bible and see that he says in Matthew I did not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it. And for some reason, people think that the word fulfill means to, you know, abolish it. So that would make him, okay, that would make what he said, I didn't come to abolish the law, but to abolish the law. Doesn't make any sense. And just for those who are having a hard time understanding, when Yeshua said, I came to fulfill, he didn't come to abolish the law. This is the law forever. And he kept the law, even unto death. And as believers, we're to walk the same way he did. We're to do what he did, which was be obedient to the Father and walk out Torah, walk out the law of God. You know, people confuse the law of Yahweh with the law of sin and death. That's what was abolished, the law of sin and death. But the law of Yahweh is still good. And the word fulfill in the Greek is pleiru. And you look this up, pleiru. And pleiru basically means to to fully preach. To fully preach. Pleiru means to fully preach. How do we fully preach something? We demonstrate it. You could preach something, but if you're not walking what you're preaching, then that's wrong. In order, we need to practice what we preach, and that's what Yeshua was doing. And so when he said, I came to fulfill it, he came to fully preach, to demonstrate how to walk in holiness before Yahweh. So if we belong to him, whether we are of, whether we have a Jewish bloodline, or we have a Jewish heritage or not, if we belong to the King of Israel, if we belong to Messiah Yeshua, then we are part of Israel. One cannot be part of the kingdom of any king if one does not walk in obedience to that king. So there's that. And I will get down from my soapbox. Okay, let's go to, let's see. And he reiterates, don't eat the blood, and because we'll be cut off. Anybody who eats a carcass or what was torn by a beast, if he's a native or a stranger, he will wash his garments and bathe in water. It says he will be unclean until evening. So we're told we're not supposed to eat something that died of natural causes, or that was, torn up by an animal. So no roadkill. You can't eat roadkill. Leave that possum where it lay. Well, possum's not kosher, but we're not supposed to eat anything dead. But some people in desperation, I'm appalled at what I hear, people who are starving and there's nothing and they got to eat something to live. They'll eat something that's not kosher in order to live. They're forgiven, but they have to wash their garments, bathe in water, and they're unclean. They're carrying that uncleanness, because when you eat something that's unclean, you become unclean. But it says you're unclean until evening, and then you shall be clean. So there's forgiveness for anyone who has to, is forced to eat something that they shouldn't, like roadkill. Okay, so let's go to 18, and we're getting to the end here, sorta. Okay, and let's see, you read the last part, correct?
No, it's my turn to read.
Oh, it's your turn. Okay, I lost track. When I comment, I feel like I read it. So, all right, so it's your turn. So go until let's see. read from 1 to 7.
Adonai said to Moshe, "Speak to the people of Israel. Tell them, I am Adonai your God. You are not to engage in the activities found in the land of Egypt, where you used to live, and you are not to engage in the activities found in the land of Canaan, where I am bringing you, nor are you to live by their laws. You are to obey my rulings and laws and live accordingly. I am Adonai your God. You are to observe my laws and rulings. If a person does them, he will have life through them. I am Adonai. None of you is to approach anyone who is a close relative in order to have sexual relations. I am Adonai. You are not to have sexual relations with your father, and you are not to have sexual relations with your mother. She is your mother. Do not have sexual relations with her.
Okay.
That's through 7.
Through 7. Okay. So, and it was very often in ancient Egypt that you would see often that a pharaoh would marry their sister, and their idea is to keep the pharaonic blood pure, keep it in the family, so to speak. Um, and that was their culture, that was their religious upbringing for that people. We're not supposed to do like that. um I used to study, I was interested in Egyptology, and the culture. This was years and years ago. When I was in college, I studied, um their culture, and their religion and everything, just you know um and I learned that the practice of um inbreeding basically is what it is. Having relationships or relations with your close relative, a parent or a sibling, oftentimes resulted in the breakdown of their genetic, um, you know, the pool. And there were a lot of deformities. Some people say that King Tut himself had a deformity, that he walked with a limp because he had a club foot. Um, and I know Akhenaten, who was the one that introduced monotheism to Egypt for a time. They used to worship many gods, and then he said, "Oh, we need to worship one God." And um, the Egyptians didn't like that. They liked their many gods. Um, but if you find like some of these carvings and pictures of him, you will notice he had a very elongated face, almost alien-like. And they said that was, he was the product of incestuous relationship, and it messed with his genetics, and even he married his sister. So we're not to do that. In Canaan, they also did things like that, and we are not to follow in their ways. Um, this is not what this is not Yahweh's best for us. So he says here we're not to do it. And just in the popular lingo, it's plain creepy. So we don't do it. And I think Yahweh puts that in our hearts to be, appalled and repelled by the thought of having uh, relationships like this. Okay, starting at verse 8. The nakedness of your father's wife you do not uncover. It is your father's nakedness. and the nakedness of your sister, the daughter of your father, or the daughter of your mother, whether born at home or elsewhere, their nakedness you do not uncover. The nakedness of your son's daughter or your daughter's daughter, their nakedness you do not uncover, for theirs is your own nakedness. And the nakedness of your father's wife's daughter, brought forth by your father, she is your sister. You do not uncover her nakedness. The nakedness of your mother's sister you do not uncover, for she is your mother's flesh. The nakedness of your father's brother you do not uncover. You do not approach his wife. She is your aunt. Okay, so I stopped at 14, but basically before it spoke about, you're not to have, and I feel another sneeze coming on. Oh, excuse me. First it says don't have relationships with, don't have sexual relations with your parents or your siblings. Here it's speaking of, in verse 8, the nakedness of your father's wife. So even if your father's wife is not your mother, if he marries another woman, you're not to have a relation with her. And it says, the way they put it here, the nakedness of your father's wife you do not uncover, so you don't have relations with her. It is your father's nakedness. In other words, when you are having sexual relations with his wife, who is not your mother, you're not, she's your stepmother. It's as though you're having relations with your father. So this is not done. This is an abomination. And the same goes with your sibling who is the son or daughter of your father and your stepmother, or vice versa. If it's, the son or daughter of your mother and your stepfather. So here we've got a series of different relationships. You're not even supposed to have relations with step siblings or step parents at all. Okay, so let's pick it up at 15. Do you have anything there?
No, this is so. According to the way I was brought up, it's hard to read this scripture. And just because Yahweh put this explicitly
Mhm.
in this book for us to read, it makes
Mhm.
you wonder what people, we know that people of Egypt that you were just mentioning
Mhm.
sometimes did this stuff. And
Oftentimes with this stuff, yeah.
so it is so disgusting that it's hard to read, frankly.
Oh, yeah,
But
it's pretty disgusting.
okay, starting at 15.
Yes, starting at 15 and going until the end of 21.
You are not to have sexual relations with your daughter in law because she is your son's wife. Do not have sexual relations with her. You are not to have sexual relations with your brother's wife because this is your brother's prerogative. You are not to have sexual relations with both a woman and her daughter, nor are you to have sexual relations with her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter. They are close relatives of hers, and it would be shameful. You are not to take a woman to be a rival with her sister and have sexual relations with her while her sister is still alive. You are not to approach a woman in order to have sexual relations with her because she is unclean from her time of nidah You are not to go to bed with your neighbor's wife and thus become unclean with her. That's through 20.
One more.
You are not to let any of your children be sacrificed to Molech, thereby profaning the name of your God. I am Adonai.
Okay, so we've got several things here, and it's expanded. It's going from immediate family and those um, prohibitions as far as your intimate relations. Um, so it goes into daughter-in-law. You know, you're not to even approach the wife, you know, and also the husband of your children, any of your children. Um, you know, this reminds me of that. What was it? Um, what was the program we saw where the uncle of this man, oh, it was it was on Gunsmoke, you know, and that kind of shows us the morals that, you know, programs used to have. Gunsmoke used to speak about godly morals, you know, and gave examples. And now you can't say that in a lot of TV programming. But the episode we watched last night, you know, and I'm sure you remember, there was a man who fell in love with this woman, and you know, I guess she had a kind of shady past, but you know, and it, as it turns out, he knew it, but she had left her past behind, and they were in love, and so they got married. Well, his uncle who raised him knew about this woman's past, and he lusted after her. And even after his nephew and her were married, I mean, she was a married woman now, he wanted her. And so he was lusting after her, and he even devised a way of getting rid of his nephew so he could have her, you know, and he had, you know, tried to intimidate her, and and you know, it was bad. Yeah, you know, and I was really creeped out by watching that, you know, and I was thinking, you know, this was, you know, I mean, Gunsmoke, this was, they always showed such programs that were so morally took the high ground, and they showed this, but in a way, you know, it was good, even though it was a hard thing to watch. I mean, it really bothered me that, you know, the characters, it, you know, were, you know, that one character, that one uncle was doing that. And you know, that's biblical morals, and this is what, you know, same thing goes here. You know, it shows us what is proper, good and proper, and what is not. um so it wasn't just the Egyptians and the Canaanites that um were involved in this kind of sin. um you know, in more recent history and even now, uh you know, it's just crazy. And now they even have TV programs about it that people love to see, you know, all that. I don't know why. I don't know why people like watching that, but um you know, we're not to even watch a program about that kind of stuff. So anyway, it goes on. And okay, then it talks about you're not to approach, um let's see. Yeah, you're not to take a son's daughter, or or her daughter's daughter. Um they are her relatives. And I know, at the end of verse 17, what does it say? The last couple of words.
I had trouble turning my mic on.
Oh, okay.
And it would be shameful.
Okay, and it would be shameful. In my version here, which is the ISR, the scriptures, it's pretty harsh. It says it is wickedness. It's not. I think of it's shameful. It's like, oh, I'm ashamed of what I did, and that's the bad part. Being, having shame. The bad part is doing wickedness. And of course we should be ashamed of doing wickedness, but this is much harsher the way they put it. Okay, so then it says, do not approach a woman to uncover her nakedness in her monthly separation of uncleanness. So um this is to protect women who are in their time of nida, their monthly cycle, and you know men respect that. um and this is protection for the woman, it's kindness for the woman, because at that time women tend to be um they're physically, they're more susceptible to um being harmed, or sometimes emotions can you know enter in, and it's just better, it's just better. And of course blood is involved, you're not supposed to um you know you're not supposed to touch blood. Okay. um so this is okay, so they've explained that. Then it goes on, do not have intercourse with a wife of your neighbor. So it's going beyond the family. You're not even supposed to have relations with your neighbor's spouse. And it says to defile yourself with her. So it's defiling. It is defiling. And then it jumps to something, it's just interjects, do not give any of your offspring to pass through to Moloch, to pass through the fire to this pagan god, and do not profane the name of your Elohim. I am Yahweh. So making an offering to an idol is shameful, it's wicked, it profanes the name of Yahweh. But to use your children as a sacrifice, and I'm just going to say it, this is still done today, that there are people who sacrifice their children. The blood of their children is on their hands, and they are sacrificing to an idol. Only nowadays we call it abortion, and that idol is called convenience. It's called selfishness. It's called our wants and needs. And it's disobedience. It is an abomination. And it defiles us as well. And I know, women have been lied to, men have been lied to concerning that horrible thing called abortion. And I know there are those who may be watching who have gone through it. And it's a terrible thing. It's a sin. And I'm not saying that to condemn anybody, because in fact, Yah has provided a way to have all sin, including that sin, to be washed away and to no longer carry that burden. Because it is a burden to any woman and any man, for that matter, um, who have sacrificed their own children in that way. It's a burden. It's heaviness, and we reap the consequences. But Yahweh has made a way for us to be forgiven and to be washed clean of that. The memory will be with, those who have gone through that, and that's hard. But all can be forgiven if we turn to Yahweh with godly sorrow and we ask for forgiveness. We admit that we have sacrificed our children to a foreign god, to, God of convenience, the God of choice. And we repent of that. Yahweh will forgive us. And many of these women go on to speak out against that horrible practice, that horrible plague of abortion. So, and in this way, they, work out their salvation with trembling. Um, but anyways, this was interjected. Here it says Moloch, but it's a foreign god. It's an idol, and it profanes the name of our Creator because He gave life for because He loves us. Okay, going on. All right, and I'm gonna start at 22. Did you have something or?
Just one quick thing.
Yeah.
Um, Verse 22
Hmm.
is pretty important nowadays.
Yeah,
Where,
I'm about to read it. I
oh,
haven't read it. I have not read it yet.
oh, my mistake. I'm going to go back asleep.
Okay, no, don't be asleep. Okay. Ah, all right. 22. And I feel another sneeze coming on. It's all the plants. All the plants here. All right. Okay, 22. And do not lie with a male as with a woman. It is an abomination. And do not have intercourse with any beast to defile yourself with it. And a woman does not stand before a beast to mate with it. It is a perversion. Do not defile yourselves with all these, for all these the nations are defiled, which I am driving out before you. Thus the land became defiled. Therefore I punish it for its crookedness, and the land vomited out its inhabitants. But you shall guard my laws and my right rulings, and do not do any of these abominations. The native nor stranger who sojourns among you. Okay, I'm going to stop there for the moment. Um, so now we're talking about, the act of homosexuality, and I know there are many out there that struggle with same-sex attraction, and we pray for them. Um, you know, and it's same-sex attraction is the lure of sin. It's one thing to think about it, and it's another thing to act on that. It's another thing to have feelings for someone of the same sex as yourself. A lot of times it could simply be admiration. Um, but then when it can go too far, and it's when you make it a reality, when you go that step, then it's an abomination. That attraction to that sin is like attraction of somebody to steal something. You want to do it, but you can try and block it out. Sin will seek us out. Sin will, the enemy will try to get us to sin by putting thoughts in our heads. That's why it's so important to have the mind of Messiah, and to be in our scriptures, and to think only of the godly things, not dwelling on sinful things. It's so easy now with the internet and even TV. I mean, there are commercials that really, push the limits. Um, you know, like these Victoria's Secret commercials. I tell you, it's no longer a secret. It's there. Um, but that, this is the enemy getting into all, he's the prince of the power of the air. He will use the airwaves, TV commercials, magazines, music that you hear on the radio, um, or on the internet, that talk about things like this, talk about sin. We see it in, pride parades. That's not pride. That's not the kind of pride we should have. And we know that pride goeth before a fall. But it's out there, and there's temptation to do the wrong thing. And so we have to learn to turn our heads. We have to turn to block our ears and, close our eyes to temptation so as not to fall into the desire to do those things that Yahweh hates. And also the desire, to actually do those things. That's why pornography is, people struggle with it. There are pastors who struggle with it. There are people who you would think would, be above reproach, but they struggle with it because it's available on the internet, and it's so important to just keep away from it. But as far as, the sin of homosexuality, I know there are people who struggle, and they don't act on that. And we just have to pray that Yah will help them in their struggle to remove the temptation. We pray for that for ourselves. Remove the temptation to sin, Lord. And here it says it's an abomination. It's not pleasing to Yah. Then it goes on, relationships with an animal. That really is, that is really awful. But people do it. People do it. But that's not for Yah's people. And it says, do not defile yourselves with all of these things. For by all these things, the nations, the, Goyim, the people who are not of kingdom people, that are not the people of Yahweh. And also nations means pagans. That's what they do. They did it in Egypt. They did it in Canaan. They did it in Babylon, and they're doing it now all over. But it's not for us. We are to be pure before the Lord. And it says, goes on to say, thus the land, speaking of Canaan, became defiled. So that land became defiled because of what they did. And those kind of relationships, or the relations, intimate relations, are part and parcel of their religion, the religion that the Egyptians practiced, the Canaanites practiced. They had temple prostitutes, both male and female. This was what they did. This is not what people of Yahweh do. This is not what kingdom people do. So he says the land became defiled because of those practices. And he says, I punished it for its crookedness, for the sinfulness. And it says the land vomited out its inhabitants. So they were taken out. The people of Canaan were removed, and Yah removed and cleansed the land so that his people could take over and establish a land where his people, those who were of and for Yah, could live and be an example for the rest of the world. Okay. Anything?
No, not at this time.
Okay. And if you would read from 26 to the end.
But you are to keep my laws and rulings, and not engage in any of these disgusting practices, neither the citizen nor the foreigner living with you. For the people of the land have committed all these abominations, and the land is now defiled. If you make the land unclean, it will vomit you out too, just as it is vomiting out the nation that was there before you. For those who engage in any of these disgusting practices, whoever they may be, will be cut off from their people. So keep my charge not to follow any of these abominable customs that others before you have followed, and thus defile yourselves by doing them. I am Adonai your God.
Okay. So it's interesting that it speaks of these abominations will cause, if we do these things, it will cause the land to vomit us out as well. Yah will take us out of the promised land. It's interesting, as you were reading this, it says, so let not the land vomit you out for defiling it, as it vomited out the nations that were before you. And we know that the so-called Palestinians are saying, we were there before Israel was there. So therefore, if they're saying that the land vomited them out, there, because they were the nation before them, and it's not true, it's not true that they were there before Israel. But in them saying that they were there before Israel, they're admitting that the land vomited them out. So that was just a thought that crossed my mind. So, okay. Well, he made his he made it clear what we are to do and what we are not to do. So we're to follow his laws, his Torah. So, anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Okay. Well, I want to thank those who made it through, who stuck with it, even with the technical difficulty that we had beginning. I'm glad you stuck it out and stayed with us as we went through this Bible study. I want to remind everybody that we meet once a week, every Sabbath, every Saturday at 1 p.m. Central Time, and we'd love it if you would come and fellowship with us, worship with us, and you are welcome. We also broadcast our services, so if you are not able to physically be there, you are welcome to find us online and watch us. We try to have that on both our Facebook page and also on YouTube. So yeah, so please join us however you are able to do. And so okay, well, I want to wish everybody a good evening and many blessings as you continue to walk in the ways of our Creator. And until next time, we say shalom, shalom.